When my daughter-in-law told me I was a burden, I smiled and said it was fine. But when my son forgot my birthday, I felt very small, like I had slipped out of my own family's picture. I am telling you this with a quiet heart. I am not here to blame anyone. I am sitting at my kitchen table with a warm cup of tea, and I want to tell you what happened slowly, like a soft evening story. Before I begin, please smash that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I'm grateful you're here with me. Maybe you know this feeling. The house is calm. The air is still. A special day comes and you try not to hope too much. You keep your phone close. You tell yourself it is fine, that people are busy, that love can be quiet. You set 2 plates on the table anyway, and you wait with a small smile that starts to shake. I will tell you about the little cake I baked for myself and the 2 plates I washed without using. I will tell you about the first drawing my son ever gave me, a small house with a bright yellow sun made with chubby fingers and so much pride. I kept it safe for decades, like a tiny light. After my birthday passed in silence, I put that drawing in an envelope and sent it to him, not to punish him, not to test him. I sent it because it was true. It was the first gift he ever gave me. I will tell you about the post I saw online later. It was about boundaries and guilt and not letting people use birthdays to control you. It stung like a small, sharp thorn. It made me sit very still and listen to my own breath. It made me open a drawer and take out my will. I held it the way you hold a letter from an old friend. That day, I rewrote it. I did it with calm hands and a clear mind, not from spite. From love, and from a wish to protect the little ones and honor the places that helped me when I was lost. This is not a story of shouting. It is a story of quiet steps, a forgotten birthday, a drawing in the mail, a post that hurt, a will written again with gentle words, and somehow a way back to each other, one careful moment at a time. If you have ever felt forgotten by someone you love, I hope you will sit with me now. We will breathe together. We will walk through it slowly. And maybe, by the end, there will be a soft kind of light. Most mornings begin the same way for me. I wake before the sun and listen to the house breathe. The kettle sits ready on the stove, and I set it to heat while the window light slowly lifts the room. On the shelf by the table is my late husband's photo in a silver frame. His smile is steady, like a small lamp that never goes out. I say good morning to him in my head. I tell him the plan for the day, even if it is just laundry and letters. It helps me feel held, like I am not walking through the hours alone. I pour tea and wrap both hands around the cup. The warmth settles my chest. My little home is quiet, but not empty. I keep it tidy, the way I was taught. There is a soft chair by the window with a folded blanket on the arm. The blanket has a small snag I keep meaning to fix. The table has a shallow scratch across it from years ago when Michael slid a toy truck too fast and we both laughed. On a low shelf in the living room, there is a wooden memory box my husband made long ago. He sanded it smooth by hand and rubbed oil into the grain until it shone. He wanted a place for our most precious things. The lid fits snugly, like a calm promise. Inside, there are baby shoes the color of cream. There is a lock of hair tied with white thread. School photos sit in a neat stack, one for each year, each with the same tilt of Michael's head. There are tiny crafts made with glue and bright bits. Popsicle sticks painted crooked. A clay turtle with a chipped tail. All of it is small and brave. Near the top, wrapped in soft tissue, lies the first drawing. I lift it by the edges when I take it out, the way you hold a leaf you do not want to tear. It shows a little house with a red roof, a bright yellow sun in the corner, and 3 stick figures with round hands. Michael drew it when he was 5. He pressed it into my hands like it was treasure. "For you," he said. His face was serious, but his eyes were laughing. "So you will never forget me," I told him. "I could never forget you." I put the drawing on the fridge with 2 magnets shaped like apples. It lived there a long time. Some corners have faint tape marks that still make me smile. Those early years were made of small, sweet things. We had simple birthdays at home. I baked a cake in the old pan with the scratch across the bottom. We blew up paper balloons and wore hats that always slid to one side. Michael stood on a chair to help stir the batter. He called it quality control when he dipped his finger in the frosting. My husband would bring home extra candles for no reason. "You can never have too many," he said. We sometimes scraped cooled wax off the plate and still ate, laughing at the little ridges it left. Music from the radio filled the kitchen in a soft way. Those days were not grand, but they were full. As Michael grew, the house felt both bigger and smaller. Bigger because he brought friends and noise. Smaller because his own world was starting to call him away. He learned new things faster than the seasons changed. He borrowed the car. He came home late with stories. He stretched toward a life that had room for me but no longer circled me. He met Anna after a rainy day, he told me. They reached for the same dry seat at a coffee shop. She is organized and careful with time. She keeps a calendar with tidy boxes and a list for everything. Her love is clean and planned like a well-kept drawer. She is not unkind. She is simply careful. From the beginning, I tried not to push. I wanted to be part of their life without taking up too much space. I set a quiet rule for myself. I would not call every day. I would not drop by without asking. I would offer help, then step back and wait to be invited. I promised myself I would not be that mother who turns love into a weight. When they moved across town, I bought a simple plant for their new kitchen. "It likes morning light," I said. Anna smiled and set it by the window. She thanked me, then checked her watch. "We have a delivery coming at 2, she said kindly. I took the hint and hugged them both. "I'm here if you need me," I said. I meant it. After my husband died, I met with a calm lawyer named Ms. Chen and made a simple will. It felt like turning on a small light in a dark hall. The plan said the house would go to Michael. I listed a few keepsakes for friends. The rest was plain and easy. I folded the papers and put them in the kitchen drawer that sticks when it rains. I did not think I would need to look at them again for a very long time. The years settled into a gentle rhythm. The grandchildren, Leo and Maya, came when they could. They brought backpacks and big words they had just learned. We baked cookies with too many chocolate chips and built blanket forts that leaned. I kept a basket of crayons in the corner and a stack of picture books on the shelf. I told them stories about their father when he was small. Leo laughed when I told him about the time Michael hid peas in his sock because he did not want to eat them. Maya liked to curl against my side and point at pictures while I read. At nap time, their soft breaths made the room feel round and safe. After they left, the house felt too quiet for a while, and then it returned to normal, like a pond that smooths after a stone drops. Anna kept the family calendar tight. She had meal plans and weekend blocks. She set aside evenings for the children's activities. I tried to read the mood like weather. Sometimes it was bright, sometimes it was overcast. Both were fine. I did not want to bring a storm where none was needed. There were small frictions, as there are in every family. Once I saw a little dress with tiny flowers and thought of Maya. I bought it and wrapped it with tissue and a ribbon. The next week, the dress sat in a bag by their door with a receipt on top. "We returned it," Anna said, polite and firm. "It wasn't our style." I nodded and smiled. "Of course," I said. In the car later, my chest had a small ache that faded by the time I reached home. Another time, I set the table for a dinner I had planned for days. I polished the forks and warmed rolls. An hour before, Michael called. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he said. "Work exploded, we have to cancel." I told him it was all right. He sounded relieved and guilty at once. I put the rolls in the freezer and ate soup. The plates went back in the cupboard, cool and quiet. The children's laughter always brought the balance back. They would burst through my door with stories about school and small treasures in their pockets. A shiny rock. A sticker shaped like a star. I kept a jar on the shelf for their findings. "This is our museum," I told them. They loved that. They named the rock. They put the sticker on the jar. I keep my days simple. I walk to the library on Tuesdays. The building smells like paper and dust and patience. I shelve books and let my mind rest. On Thursdays, I help in the church kitchen. We slice bread and stir big pots of soup. Those places held me steady after my husband died. I like to offer my hands back to them. Paula, my neighbor, is a kind presence. She waves from her porch and sometimes brings me a handful of herbs from her garden. We talk by the mailboxes about small things that add up to a full life. She asks about the children by name. I ask about her sister's new puppy. We both laugh at how much a tiny animal can control a grown person's day. I hang a simple paper calendar in the kitchen each year. I write down birthdays in neat letters. I add the children's concerts and the days I promised to help at school events. I put a little heart next to my husband's birthday. I do not mark those days with anything grand. They are reminders to be gentle with myself. Once, when I was washing dishes at Michael's, I heard Anna in the next room talking on the phone. Her voice was low and tired. "Your mom means well," she said, "but it's a lot." I stood very still. The water ran over my hands and turned from warm to cool. I did not move until she hung up. Then I finished the dishes and dried my hands on a towel. I did not bring it up. I told myself she was trying to find space to breathe. I remembered times I had thought the same about other people when my life felt too crowded. The words stung, but I let the sting be small. I put the towel back on the rack, straightened the counter, and asked the children if they wanted to read. Sometimes on quiet afternoons, I open the memory box and take out the first drawing. The paper is soft now, almost like cloth. The colors have faded a little, but the sun still looks bright. I hold it without pressing down. I hear a small voice in my memory. "For you," he says again, "so you will never forget me." I smile at the old promise that has always been easy to keep. I do not ask for grand gestures. I like the small things that repeat. A cup of tea at my own table, a knock at the door on a Saturday morning, a messy card with too much glue, the sound of a key in a lock. These are the sounds that tell me I am inside the picture, not standing outside it. I keep my will folded in the drawer. It is a simple map of what I will leave behind when I cannot stand in this kitchen anymore. The house to Michael. A few keepsakes to friends. Plain, like me, I have never felt a reason to change it. Life, for the most part, has felt settled and kind. On evenings when the sky turns the color of peaches, I brew a final cup of tea and sit by the window. The street is quiet. A single car passes. Somewhere a dog barks twice and then stops. I look at my husband's photo and tell him where we are now. "Michael is working hard," I say. "Anna keeps the calendar smooth. The children are tall." I tell him about small worries and small joys. I feel his quiet company. Our family carries love in different shapes. Mine is a warm blanket and a full plate. Anna's is a schedule and a plan. Michael's is a last-minute hug at the door and a promise to call. The children's love is loud and glittery and full of crumbs. None of it is wrong. Sometimes it bumps. Sometimes it falls out of step. Most days, it finds its rhythm again. In the mornings, I open the curtains and let the light touch the drawing first. It seems right that the sun in the corner meets the real sun moving across the wall. I make tea and write a small list for the day. Bread, letters, walk, call Paula. I do not always finish the list. I have learned that not everything important fits on paper. This is my life as it sits before the trouble. A small house. A steady routine. A wooden box full of tiny, brave things. A son I love. A daughter-in-law who keeps order. 2 grandchildren who fill the air with light. And a will folded quiet in a drawer made years ago, waiting without fuss. I am grateful for all of it, even the parts that pinch now and then. It is the kind of life that hums. It is the kind of life you do not notice you are holding until the day you feel it slip a little in your hands. Most mornings I wake before the sun. The house is quiet in a way that feels gentle, not empty. I like to sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and watch the window light move across the wall. The kettle hums as it heats, and I listen to that sound like an old lullaby. On the shelf near the table, there is a small silver frame with my husband's photo. His smile still looks warm, as if he is about to speak. I say good morning to him in my head. I tell him what I plan to do that day. Sometimes I tell him the small things like, "I'll water the ferns," or "I'll try that soup recipe again." It helps to make a shape for the day. I open the curtains a little more and let the soft light come in. The kitchen curtain has a tiny tear near the edge, the kind that happens from years of being pulled back with the same gentle hand. In the living room, there is a wooden memory box on a low shelf. It is smooth and a little worn at the corners. My husband made it a long time ago when Michael was still in preschool. He sanded it by hand. He wanted it to be a place we could put things that mattered. Inside, there are baby shoes and a small lock of hair tied with white thread. There are school photos lined up through the years, all of them with that same tilt of the head that Michael always had. There are tiny crafts, some with glue still a little hard and shiny. The first drawing sits near the top, wrapped in tissue paper that has gone soft with age. Sometimes I take it out and hold it at the edges. It is a little house with a yellow sun in the corner and 3 stick figures, a tall one, a middle one, and a small one with very round hands. When Michael was 5, he pressed it into my hands like a treasure. "For you," he said, his face bright and serious. "So you will never forget me." I told him I could never forget him, and I meant it. Those years were simple and sweet in a way I did not understand until later. We had homemade birthdays in the kitchen. I would bake a small cake, nothing fancy, and blow up a few balloons. We wore paper hats that always slid to the side and made us laugh. Sometimes my husband would come home with a paper bag of extra candles, even though we already had a box. He said, "You can never have too many candles." The wax would drip onto the plate, and we would scrape it off and still eat the cake, smiling. Michael loved to help stir the batter. He stood on a chair and leaned his whole body into the bowl. He used both hands on the wooden spoon. Flour got on his cheeks and nose. When the cakes cooled, he liked to poke the frosting with his finger, then lick it and say, "Quality control." We would all pretend to be shocked. Then we would all do it too. Those birthdays had music playing low on the radio, the kind of songs you hum without thinking. As he grew, little things changed. The candles increased. The hats turned into simple cards. He learned to ride a bike, then to drive a car. He went away for college and came back taller with a new way of speaking about the world. He found work he liked. He met new people and began to make a life that folded my life into its corners rather than the other way around. I knew this was right. I had hoped for that kind of life for him. It still felt like walking down a hall and turning off lights one by one in rooms we used to live in. He met Anna on a rainy day, he told me. They were at the same coffee shop, both trying to get the last dry seat. She let him have it. He stood and she sat, and by the time the cup was empty, he had asked for her number. When he brought her to meet me, she had a neat coat and careful eyes. She was polite and kind in a thoughtful way. She asked questions and listened to the answers. When she smiled, it was wide and honest. Anna is very organized. She keeps a full planner and knows where everything goes. She makes schedules for her days and for the family. She guards their time with both hands. It is not a bad thing. It is a careful kind of love. She likes clear agreements and clear lines. I understood that this was the way she felt safe. I tried to adjust to it. I made a promise to myself that I would not be that mother. I told myself I would not call every day. I would not drop by without asking. I would not offer more than I was asked to give. I learned to sit on my hands when I wanted to jump in. When they moved across town, I told them, "I am here if you need me." I said it softly. I meant it without pressure. When I bought things for the house, I always kept the receipt so they could return anything that did not fit their style. After my husband died, I made a simple will. It was what people do to put things in order. I sat with a calm woman in a small office and we wrote the plan. The house would go to Michael. A few keepsakes would go to friends. I listed out small gifts like the recipe box to one friend and a sweater to another because I knew who would use them with love. It was a basic plan. I put the papers in a folder in the drawer by the stove, the one that sticks a little when it is humid. I did not think much about it again. It felt set, like the way you set the table and know where the forks go. Life had a gentle rhythm after that. Leo and Maya came sometimes with backpacks and new words. The house filled with bright sounds. We made cookies and built blanket forts that always leaned to one side. I kept a basket of little toys and crayons in the corner. We read the same books again and again. I loved the way they leaned into me when they were sleepy, all soft cheeks and slow breaths. When they left, the house would seem bigger for a while. I would find a tiny sock under the couch and smile. There were small frictions too, like dust that settles even when you clean. Once I bought a dress for Maya that I thought was pretty with little flowers on it. It was soft and simple. The next time I visited, the dress was in a bag by the door with a receipt. Anna said, "We returned it, Mom. Thank you, but it wasn't our style." She said it kindly, and I nodded, but I felt a small twist in my chest and then let it go. Another time, we had planned a dinner, and I had set the table with my good plates. An hour before, Michael called and said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. Something came up at work. We need to cancel." I said it was fine, and I meant it. I ate soup and put the plates away. Once I was in the hallway and heard Anna on the phone in the kitchen. She said, "Your mom means well, but it's a lot." She did not say it in a cruel way. It sounded like she was trying to sort a feeling she could not name. I stood very still until the call ended, then I went out to the garden and pulled a few weeds. I told myself, this is a small thing. It is not a war. It is a sentence dropped like a fork on the floor. I did not bring it up. I chose to believe she was trying her best, like I was. On Sundays, I sometimes went to the library after church. The library smelled like old paper and quiet. The church kitchen smelled like coffee and soap. Both places held me after my husband died in different ways. I folded chairs. I shelved books. I made sandwiches for the lunch crowd when they needed extra hands. I liked being one pair of helpful hands in a room full of them. The seasons turned as they always do. Summer slid into fall, then winter came and softened the edges of things. I bought a new calendar for the kitchen and hung it by a small nail. I wrote down birthdays with a fine-tipped pen. I put little stars on days when I would see the children. I made a mark on my own birthday, not to ask for a party, but to remember to be gentle with myself that day. I circled it once and smiled. I did not plan a big celebration. I imagined a simple phone call from Michael, maybe a short visit the weekend after, maybe a quick lunch at the place with the soup he likes. I told myself to keep my expectations small and my heart open. That was my plan. It felt wise and kind, a good mix. I thought that would carry me through. The weeks before my birthday felt normal. One afternoon, I was on the phone with Michael. He was walking somewhere. I could hear his shoes on the sidewalk. I said lightly, "Your calendar shows next Thursday, yes?" He laughed a little and said, "We'll figure something out, Mom." I heard him push open a door. He said, "I'll call you later, okay?" I told him, "No rush, love you." He said, "Love you too," but his voice was already far away. That night I talked with Paula, my neighbor. We were standing by the mailboxes. The air was cool. She asked, "Any plans for your day?" I told her I would keep it light, maybe a little cake, maybe a walk by the park if the weather held. Paula knows the slow pace of my life. She said, "I can swing by in the afternoon if you want. We can split that cake." I thanked her. I told her I would let her know. I felt shy about it, as if asking would make me greedy for something that should come unasked. On the morning of my birthday, I woke to a soft gray light. The house was very still. I made tea and held the cup in both hands. The heat felt good on my fingers. I looked at the calendar and touched the circle I had drawn weeks ago. I took a slow breath and did my small chores. I wiped the counters. I watered the ferns. I opened the curtains and let the day in. In the late morning, I pulled the mixing bowl from the cupboard. The metal was cool against my palm. I measured flour and sugar and a small pinch of salt. I cracked 2 eggs into a little glass bowl the way my husband taught me, so if a shell falls in, you can catch it. I stirred the batter with the old wooden spoon. The kitchen filled with a smell that reached back through all the years to those birthday afternoons when Michael stood on the chair and leaned into the bowl. That smell carried a sweet weight. I let it sit with me. While the cake baked, I set the table. I took out one of the good plates and then, because hope is a quiet thing that often moves your hands before your mind catches up, I took out a second. I set 2 forks and 2 napkins. I smiled at myself and shook my head. "Just in case," I said softly. "Just in case." The oven timer chimed. I took out the cake and let it cool by the window where the light would make it look even more golden. The phone stayed face down on the table for most of the day. I did not want to watch it. Still, I made sure the sound was on. I made tea again and listened to the kettle sing. I walked to the porch and watched the clouds move. The day felt like it was holding its breath. In the early afternoon, I sent a soft text to Michael. "Hope your day is gentle. Love you." I did not mention the date. I did not mention the cake. I put the phone back on the table and looked out the window until my eyes lost focus. Paula called around 3. "I'm heading to the store. Want me to pick up anything?" she asked. I said, "I'm fine, dear. Maybe another day." She paused. "You sure?" I said I was sure. I told myself, what if he calls now? What if they stop by after work? I did not want to miss the knock or have my mouth full and miss the ring. It sounds silly, but a day like that makes you tender in ways you cannot explain. Afternoon tilted toward evening. The light grew soft and long across the floor. I cut a small slice of the cake and put it on the plate I had set for myself. I did not light a candle. I did not want to make a wish I could not keep. I took one bite and thought of all the cakes before, all the ones with finger marks and too much frosting and laughter. The quiet felt heavy. I swallowed and looked toward the window. My phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up and without thinking opened the social app I used to see photos of the children. A new picture sat at the top of the screen. Michael and Anna were at a long table at a restaurant, smiling. There were candles on the table and plates of food with bright sauces. The caption said, "Celebrating people who matter." There were little tags with names I did not know. The time stamp said it was posted not long ago. I stared at it, and for a moment the lines of the room wavered. I set the phone down and put my hand flat on the table. I breathed in and out slowly until my breath steadied. I did not feel angry. I felt small, the way you do when you look at a picture and find that your place in it is gone. The house was quiet around me, and the cake on the plate had a small fork line where I had taken a bite. The second plate was still empty, the fork still clean. The sun slipped lower. The day put on its soft blue coat. The phone buzzed again near 9. A text from Michael lit the screen. "Mom, sorry, crazy day, love you, call you tomorrow." I looked at the words for a long moment. My fingers did not rush. I typed back, "Rest well." Then I put the phone face down and walked to the sink. I did not mention the cake. I did not mention the photo. I ran warm water and washed the 2 plates I had set out, even though one had not been used. I dried them and put them back in their places. The empty plate made a small sound as it touched the shelf. I stood at the sink and let the water run over my hands until it went cool. In bed, the ceiling was dark and full of quiet. I listened to the house settle. My heart felt full and hollow at the same time, like a shell you find on the beach that still holds a soft sound inside it. I did not try to push the feeling away. I let it be. I thought of little Michael pressing the drawing into my hands. I thought of the sun he drew, bright and round. I thought of that day in the kitchen when we did not have enough candles, and we laughed and scooped them out of the drawer one by one. White, pink, blue. Morning came like it always does, slow and sure. I got up, made tea, and walked to the living room. The memory box waited in its place. I lifted the lid and paused for a long breath. The tissue paper, so familiar under my fingers, made a soft sound as I moved it aside. I took out the drawing, holding it at the edges. The paper was thin now, almost like cloth. The colors had faded a little, but the yellow sun still looked alive. I carried the drawing to the kitchen table and set it down. I sat and looked at it. I let the old day come back. I could see 5-year-old hands pressing the crayon hard to make the sun bright. I could hear his small voice. "For you," he had said, "so you will never forget me." The edges of the paper had small tears where I had taped it to the fridge once for a long time. I touched the air above the paper, not the paper itself. I pulled a card from the drawer and a pen. I wrote a short note. I kept the words simple and true. "This was your first gift to me. You were 5. I kept it all these years. I wanted you to have it now. Love, Mom." I read it twice. I did not add more. It felt right to stop there. Sometimes love is clear when you do not try to dress it up. I found an envelope and slid the drawing and the note inside. I chose a stamp with a small bird on it. I pressed the stamp down with my thumb and smoothed the edges. I wrote Michael's address in my neat, slow hand. I sat for another moment, holding the envelope so the paper warmed in my fingers. I did not second-guess myself. I did not look at my phone. The post office is a short walk from my house. The morning was soft and cool. I carried the envelope close to my chest, the way you carry something you care about without thinking. The door chimed when I went in. The air smelled faintly of paper and tape. There was one person at the counter ahead of me. I waited and looked at the postcards on the rack. Photos of fountains and flowers. A snow-capped mountain that looked far away and quiet. When it was my turn, Mr. Patel looked up with his kind eyes. He has worked there for years. He always remembers if someone needs help with the forms. He weighed the envelope on the small silver scale and looked at the number. He glanced at the address and then at me. He said very gently, "Something special." I felt my face soften and I smiled. "The most special," I said. He nodded like he understood. He placed a clear sticker on the corner and stamped the date in small blue letters. "It will go out this afternoon," he said. "Should reach him soon." I thanked him. I felt steady, the way you feel when you have done exactly the thing you meant to do, no more, no less. On the walk home, I noticed things I had not seen on the way there. A small bird drinking from a puddle near the curb. A child's chalk drawing on the sidewalk, a sun with long rays. A woman watering her plants, careful to give each one the same time. The world looked both ordinary and precious. My hands felt empty and light. Back in the kitchen, I made tea. I sat at the table where the drawing had rested. I looked at the space it had left in the box, a soft gap that showed where it had been. I did not feel regret. I did not feel a need to justify. I was not trying to punish anyone. I was sending a truth I could not speak out loud without shaking. I had placed it in an envelope and let it go. I trusted it to say what my voice could not find. I stood by the window for a while and watched the street. The day moved on as it always does. The kettle cooled. The clock on the wall ticked its small, steady sound. My heart felt quiet and awake, like a room with clean light coming in. I waited without nomming it waiting. I went on with my day. The drawing arrived at Michael's home on a weekday afternoon. I did not know the hour or the minute. I did not know the sound the mail made when it slid into their box. I did not know if he was home when it came, or if Anna saw it first and brought it inside with a stack of flyers and bills. I only knew that somewhere between my house and theirs, the little yellow sun I had held for decades crossed a space I could not see. The house was quiet, as it always is after lunch. I watered the plants in the living room and wiped the leaves with a soft cloth. The fern likes a light mist, not too much. The spider plant needs a trim, or it starts to look like it is reaching for the floor. I moved slowly and let the sound of water fill the space between my steps. I tried not to watch the clock. Still, I noticed it. The hands moved the way they always do, steady and impartial. The kettle sat on the stove, ready. The teacups were in their place on the shelf. My husband's photo smiled at me from the sideboard. If I listened closely, I could almost hear him say, "Breathe, love." It is a strange comfort to hear a voice that is not there in a room that is still. I told myself I was not waiting. I told myself I was doing what I always do in the afternoons. I folded a few towels. I straightened the shoes by the door. I looked at the spot in the memory box where the drawing used to rest, a gentle space, like a seat left empty for someone. I closed the lid and put my palm on the wood. It felt warm. Later, I walked to the porch and watched a delivery truck stop at houses down the street. The driver moved with a kind rhythm, like a dancer who knows the steps. The sky wore a soft gray sweater of clouds. A neighbor's wind chime made a quiet sound. I stayed outside until the air grew cool on my arms, and then I went back in and put the kettle on. Evening came with a slow hush. The kitchen light made a small, warm circle on the table. I poured tea and held the cup, the way I do when I need to keep my hands busy to keep my heart kind. My phone rested face down on the table. I did not plan to look at it. But the truth is, we all look when we are hopping. We look and we tell ourselves we are not. I turned the phone over and opened the app where I see the children's pictures. A new post sat at the top. It was not a photo of Leo or Maya. It was not a note about a busy day or a new recipe. It was a square with a quote in clean, bold letters. "Healthy boundaries, don't let anyone guilt you with birthdays or nostalgia." The caption under it said, "Learning to say no, no more emotional tests." For a moment I did not move. I read the words once, then I read them again slower. The comments started to stack below, little voices chiming in. "Yes," someone wrote. "Protect your peace," another said. "People need to stop," someone else added. The screen glowed in my hand. The room felt like it had tilted just slightly. I felt the floor move a little under me, as if the house had taken a small breath and I had lost my balance for a second. I am not foolish. I understood at once that it was about the drawing. It was about me. I saw the string between the envelope I had sent and the words on the screen. I saw the line drawn there, guilt, birthdays, nostalgia. I had meant none of those things. But the post said what it said, and the people agreed with their little hearts and words. I did not reply. I did not write a single word. I closed the app and the phone became just a small, dark object again. I put it down and wrapped both hands around my cup. The tea had cooled. I took a sip anyway. It tasted like leaves and water. It tasted clean and plain. When you cannot change a thing, sometimes the best you can do is swallow and let it pass through you. I went to the living room and opened the memory box. The place where the drawing had been looked like a missing tooth in a friendly smile. I touched the tissue paper that had held it all those years. It made a whispering sound. For a long time, I sat at the table and looked at that space. I felt the ache and I did not argue with it. I did not defend myself to the empty room. I did not try to prove my intent to the light on the wall. After a while, a quiet decision rose in me. It did not come with heat. It came like a steady hand on my shoulder. I stood and went to the drawer by the stove. It sticks a little when the air is damp. I pulled it open and took out the folder that held my will. The paper was a little stiff from years of resting. I laid it on the table and ran my finger over the names, the dates, the old plan. I read my husband's name. I read my own. I read the simple lines we had written after he died, the house to Michael, the recipe box to a friend, a few small gifts set out like stones along a path. When we made it, it felt right. It felt like a way to hold my love in place for the years beyond me. Now I felt something else, not anger, not retribution, a need for honesty, the kind you owe to yourself when your heart changes shape. I picked up the phone and found Ms. Chen's number. She is the calm woman who helped me years ago. Her voice is gentle and she is clear in the way she explains things. When she answered, I said, "Hello, Ms. Chen, it's me. I think I need to make some changes, not because I'm angry, because I need to be honest." The words surprised me a little as I heard myself say them, but they were true. Ms. Chen paused, then said, "I understand. Would you like to come in this week?" I told her yes, the sooner the better, while my mind was steady. She checked her calendar. "I have time tomorrow afternoon," she said. 2:00, we can talk through what you want." I thanked her. "Bring your current documents," she added, "and we'll make a fresh cup of tea here." I smiled, even though she could not see me. "That sounds good," I said. That night, I did not go back to the app. I did not check if there were more comments. I put the will back in the folder and set it by the door so I would not forget. I washed my cup and dried it. I turned off the lights. In bed, I lay on my side and looked at the small glow from the street. My heart felt sore, like a bruise you do not press. I thought of the drawing moving through the mail. I hoped it would be safe in the frame of my son's hands. The next day was clear. I put on a neat sweater and combed my hair. I tucked the folder under my arm and walked to Ms. Chen's office, which is only a few blocks from the library. The building is old, with narrow stairs that make you slow down whether you want to or not. Slowing down can be a kind friend when your chest is tight. I climbed at an easy pace, and when I reached her door, I took a breath before I knocked. Ms. Chen opened the door with a small smile. "Come in," she said, and stepped aside. Her office is tidy and warm. A plant sits by the window and leans toward the light. There is a wooden desk with a bowl of smooth stones on one corner. A shelf holds books with small labels on the spines. Everything in the room looks like it has a place and is not in a hurry. She pointed to a small table by the window. "Let's sit there," she said. "It's quieter." She poured hot water into 2 cups and set a little dish of tea bags on the table. I chose a simple black tea. She chose the same. We let the cups steep and then we began. She put on her glasses and looked at my folder. "Tell me," she said. Her voice was kind but not heavy. I took my time. "I sent my son something," I said. "A drawing he made when he was 5. It was the first gift he gave me." I looked toward the window, then back at her. "I sent it because it was true. I could not say everything I felt. I wanted him to see it, to hold it." Ms. Chen nodded. She did not interrupt. "I saw something online after," I added. "It told me I need to be clear about my choices, with love, not as a punishment." "What would feel clear to you now?" she asked. She held a pen but did not write yet. She waited for me to find my own words. I was grateful for that. It let me hear my thoughts better. "I love my son," I said. "That has not changed, but I want to support the children directly in a way that will hold when I cannot. I want to help the library and the church kitchen that fed me after my husband died, the places that kept me standing when the house felt like it would fall. I want to leave a gentle letter explaining my choices so no one has to guess." "That makes sense," she said. "We can do that." She began to write in a neat hand. "For the grandchildren, we can set up a simple education trust," she explained. "It can be used for school, books, training, even certain kinds of classes if they need. We can appoint a trustee who will manage it fairly and report clearly. It does not need to be complicated." I let that idea sit for a moment and tried to picture it. A small garden set aside for the children with a fence to protect it. "Who should be the trustee?" I asked. "We can use a neutral person," she said. "An experienced trustee or a small firm," she added. "If you prefer not to place that weight on family." I nodded. "Neutral is best," I said. "I do not want to make anyone carry a stone if they do not have to." For the library and the church kitchen, she continued, we can make clear gifts. You can choose an amount or a percentage from the estate after necessary costs. We can name the specific programs if you wish, or give them room to use it where they need most. I thought of the books I shelved with careful hands. I thought of the soup bowls we filled for visitors at the church. I want to help the children who sit alone in the library after school, I said. And I want to help the lunch crowd who come to the church on cold days. If some of it buys bread and some of it buys a stack of paperbacks, I will be happy. She wrote that down. We will add language that lets them direct it to those uses, she said. Simple and clear. She paused and looked at me. And for your son. Her voice was gentle. She knew this was a tender part. I want him to have something of me to hold, I said. I do not want to take care away from his children. I do not want to tie him to a house he may not be able to carry. When the time comes, I want the house to be sold. The funds can be divided according to this plan. A part for the grandchildren's trust. A part for the library and the church. A part for Michael, a smaller share but still a share. She nodded. We can put that in, she said. We will specify that the house is to be sold. We will outline the percentages. We will keep it plain. She took a clean sheet and wrote headings, grandchildren's trust, library, church kitchen, Michael. She left a space after each. Do you have friends you want to remember? She asked. Small gifts or keepsakes, I smiled. Yes, I said. Paula, my neighbor, she could use a bit to breathe easier, and some small things for others. The recipe box should go to someone who will use it. The quilts my husband's mother made. His watch. Would you like the recipe box and the quilts to go to your family? She asked. Or to friends? I thought of Anna. I thought of her careful way of making a home. I thought of Michael's hands, how they turn old things over and look at them as if they hold stories. The recipe box to Michael, I said. He can make choices from it for the children. The quilts can be one for them, one for Paula, one for the church raffle. The watch should be Michael's. It was his father, and it carries his laugh somehow. Ms. Chen wrote each item in a careful list. That is good, she said softly. It makes it easier later. It keeps people from guessing and risking hurt feelings. She looked up. Would you like to name an executor? I knew the word from before, the person who sees the plan through. I do not want to put that on Michael, I said. Not now, not with this plan. She nodded. I can serve if you wish, she said, or we can appoint a trusted colleague. If you will serve, I would be grateful, I said. You are calm and you know how to explain what matters. She dipped her head in a small nod. I will accept, she said. There was no drama in it, just agreement. The kind of agreement that feels like a sturdy chair placed on a tired floor. We talked about percentages. Ms. Chen explained that they should add up to the whole so there are no gaps or confusions. We can write it like this, she said, and she drew a small, simple circle and divided it. A good portion to the grandchildren's trust, a steady share to the library and to the church kitchen, a smaller portion to Michael, small gifts to Paula and friends. We will make sure to account for those before the rest is divided. I looked at the circle. It looked like a pie, or like the sun in the corner of a child's drawing. I felt a small, unexpected smile touch my face. She prepared the draft on her computer and printed it. The printer made a soft sound, neat and sure. She slid the pages toward me and let me read. I read each line slowly. I read the words with care, the way you read a letter from someone you love who has trouble saying everything they mean. At the end, she left a blank space. You said you want to write a letter, she reminded me. We can attach it. If you want to write it here, you can have my quiet room. No rush. I felt grateful for that. Sometimes if you wait, the words scatter like birds. If you write while they are near, they land on the page and stay. Ms. Chen led me to a small side room with a window that looked at a brick wall dressed in ivy. There was a simple table and a chair that did not squeak. She placed a sheet of paper in front of me and a good pen. Take your time, she said, and closed the door. I sat alone and placed my hands flat on the table. I looked out at the ivy and let my breath slow. Then I began. I wrote the date at the top. I wrote their names. I kept my lines simple and soft like speech. I did not try to be wise. I tried to be true. I love you, I wrote. I wanted to do good with what I have. Please forgive any ways I fall short. The ink looked gentle on the page. I added a few sentences that told them why the plan was the way it was. I wrote, the library and the church kitchen held me in a time when my hands were empty and my heart was heavy. I want to pass that kindness forward. The trust for Leo and Maya is my way of standing beside them as they grow. even when I cannot stand there in person. Michael, you are my son. I leave you things to hold and stories to keep. I told them there was no anger in the paper, only a wish to be clear and good. I wrote, if love grows in new ways, I may change these papers again. If I do not, please know I made these choices with a steady mind and a quiet heart. I ended with, I am proud of you. I am grateful for my life. Be well. Be kind to each other. Love, Mom. I put the pen down and read it once more. It felt like a small, steady flame in a glass lantern. I brought the letter back to Ms. Chen. She read it with care, the way a person reads with both eyes and heart. She looked up and nodded. This will help, she said softly. People do better when they understand your why. She slid the letter into a clear sleeve and added it to the will. She clipped everything together and placed it in an envelope with my name on it. She made another copy for her file. We went through the formal steps. I signed where she showed me. A witness came in from the next room and signed too. There was no fuss. There were no loud voices. There was no talk of winning or losing. It was a quiet room where two women did what needed to be done with care. When we finished, Ms. Chen put the envelope and a few extra pages into a simple paper bag. She folded the top and handed it to me. Here are your copies, she said. If you want to make changes later, call me. It is your right to change your mind. I nodded. Thank you, I said, for making it feel like breathing. She smiled. That is my job, she said, to help people breathe when the papers feel heavy. I left the office and stepped into the bright, honest daylight. The street felt the same as before, and yet I felt changed. Lighter, clearer, not bitter. My chest felt as if someone had opened a small window inside it. Air moved through that space. I started to walk home, the paper bag held steady in my hand like a loaf of bread still warm. On the way, I passed the library. I looked in through the glass and saw a child at a table drawing with a red marker. The picture looked like a tree with many branches. A woman nearby was reading, her finger moving under the words. I stood for a moment and watched, the way you watch the light change color on a wall. Then I moved on. I stopped at the corner and bought carrots and a small onion from the market. The man at the stall gave me a sprig of parsley for free. For flavor, he said, smiling. I thanked him and tucked it into the bag with the papers. The green against the envelope looked like a little promise of fresh taste. It made me smile in spite of everything. Back home, I put the envelope from Ms. Chen in the drawer again, the one that sticks. I placed it toward the back where I keep the things I do not touch often. I closed the drawer and pressed it gently until it clicked. The sound felt final and kind, not a door slamming, a drawer closing on a basket of clean linens. I washed my hands and pulled out a pot. I cut the onion slowly. I sliced the carrots into coins. I added a bit of olive oil and listened for the soft sound when the vegetables met the pan. I stirred and watched the colors shine. I poured in water and a spoon of broth, and the kitchen filled with a peaceful smell. Soup is a comfort that does not ask questions. It just warms and holds. While the soup simmered, I turned my phone off and put it in the basket by the door where I keep my keys. I did not want any more lights or sounds that night. I wanted the room to be plain and safe. I set the table with a simple bowl and a spoon. I tore a piece of bread and placed it on a plate. I lit a small candle and let its light make a soft circle on the wood. I ate slowly and tasted each bite. The heat soothed me from the inside. I thought of the trust that would one day pay for books and classes, a pair of shoes for a school play, a bus pass for a summer program. I thought of the library buying a stack of paperbacks. I thought of the church kitchen filling the big pot with stew and slicing bread for people whose hands shake from the cold. I knew I might never see those exact bowls and books, but I felt them anyway. When the bowl was empty, I washed it and set it to dry. I blew out the candle and watched the thread of smoke rise and curl away. The house was very quiet. I went to the living room and looked once more at the soft space in the memory box. Then I closed it gently. I touched my husband's photo with 2 fingers and said in my heart, "We did something good today." I went to bed early. I did not reach for the phone. I did not open any apps. I pulled the blanket up to my shoulders and let the dark room hold me. I listened to the small sounds the night makes, a far car, a branch brushing the window, the heater sighing. I felt the ache of the post and the steadiness of the paper sitting in the drawer. Both were true. I held them both and did not let them fight. Sleep came softly, like a familiar song playing down the hall. In the last awake moment, I saw the yellow sun in my mind, the one from the drawing, bright, simple, honest. It hung in the corner of a little house. A small figure stood beneath it with round hands, offering it to me again. I accepted it again with the same quiet joy, and I let my eyes close. A few days later, I was shelling peas at the kitchen table when I heard a knock at the door. It was a soft knock, not a hurried one. I wiped my hands on a cloth and went to open it. Michael stood there. He was holding a simple wooden frame against his chest. Inside the frame, I could see a small house and a bright yellow sun. He did not say hello first. He did not try to smile. He looked tired, as if sleep had been something he could not catch. He stepped in when I moved aside and stood in the light of the kitchen. He looked at the table, at the peas, at the cup I had left half full. Then he looked at me. His voice was small and full. "Mom, I'm sorry," he said. I nodded once and let my breath steady. "Come sit," I said. "Set it here." I touched the table with 2 fingers. He laid the frame down as if it might break if he moved too fast. He sat in the chair across from me, the chair he used to stand on to help stir the cake batter when he was little. His shoulders were tight. He reached for the frame and turned it toward me. "I put it in this," he said. His voice shook a little. "I wanted to bring it to you like this. I wanted it to be safe." He swallowed and kept looking at his hands. "It made me cry," he whispered. "When I opened the envelope, I stood in the hallway and I cried." I touched the edge of the frame. The wood was smooth and warm. The little sun in the corner looked bright even in the soft kitchen light. "Thank you," I said. "You chose a good frame." He nodded, but his face broke a little. He put a hand over his eyes. "I forgot your birthday," he said. The words came out like stones. "I was ashamed. I panicked. I did not know how to face you." We sat with that sentence between us for a few breaths. The room was quiet except for the small sound of the kettle settling on the stove. I did not rush to fill the silence. I let him have his own space in it. "I did not send it to shame you," I said after a moment. "I sent it because it was true. It was your first gift to me." He lowered his hand and looked at me. His eyes were red. "I know," he said. "I know." He pushed his hair back and took a deeper breath. "When it came, I opened it at the door," he said. "I stood there with my shoes still on. I saw the drawing and I felt 5 and 35 at the same time. I put it on the mantel. I stood looking at it like it was a person." He glanced at the counter. There was a cake plate there, the glass dome over it catching a small piece of light. I had covered the little cake and left it there, cutting a thin slice each day. It made the room feel less empty. He stared at the dome. He pressed his lips together and shook his head. "You had cake," he said softly. "You had cake and I wasn't here." He pressed his hand to his mouth. Tears gathered and fell. He did not try to fix them. I stood and moved around the table. I put my hand on his shoulder. "It happened," I said. "We are here now." He nodded, eyes closed. He took one of my fingers in his and held it, like he used to do when he was small and crossing a street. We sat like that until the storm of it passed. When he could speak again, he said, "The post was wrong." His voice was quiet and flat, like a fact you can put on a shelf. "I let it happen because I was hiding behind busy. I told myself it was just words. I told myself we would talk later." He shook his head. I did not stop it. I did not flinch. I looked at the steam rising from the teacup. "I saw it," I said. "It hurt." I let the feeling be simple and plain. He nodded. "I asked her to take it down," he said. "I should have stopped it before it went up. I should have called you before anything. I was afraid. I thought if I didn't look at it, it would go away." He breathed out. It didn't. I moved back to my chair and sat. "Fear makes us small," I said. "Then we bump into people we love without meaning to." He let out a small sound that was almost a laugh and almost a sob. "That is exactly what I did," he said. "I bumped into you with my fear." He looked down at the frame again. He pushed it closer to me. "I put it on the mantel for a few days," he said. "I looked at it in the morning and at night. It felt like it was staring at me with that little yellow sun. It felt like the whole drawing was saying, 'Remember who you are.' I knew where it belongs." He touched the wood. "I wanted to bring it back. I want to hang it here if you want it." "I want it," I said. "I want to look at it when I make tea." I ran my finger under the edge of the frame and felt the little brads holding it firm. "Thank you," I said again. Kind words can be repeated without losing their shape. He looked around the kitchen. His gaze fell on the paper bag on the sideboard. The top was folded over neat and flat. A corner of an envelope showed the letterhead from Ms. Chen's office. He saw it at once, in the way a person looks for more than they say. He pointed with his chin. "What is that?" he asked. I looked at the bag. I had left it there after I put one copy in the drawer, meaning to move the other papers up to the shelf later. "My will," I said. I kept my voice even. I held his eyes. He swallowed. "Did I cause this?" he asked. His face was bare. It was not a challenge. It was a question from a boy who wants to know how the world works and whether he has broken it. "You didn't cause my heart," I said softly. "I made this choice to protect the children and to honor what helped me when your father died. It is not to punish you. It is to be clear." I rested my hand on the table. "I hope it feels like honesty and not a door closing." He sat very still. His breath moved his shoulders. He nodded slowly. "I understand," he said. He looked down and then back at me. "I want to make things right anyway, not because of paper, because of us." He touched the frame again. "I should have called. I should have brought soup. I should have told you the truth of my life instead of hiding behind the word busy." "We can start small," I said. "Small is strong when it repeats." He raised his eyes. "Okay," he said. The word felt like a clean plate set on a table. I reached into the cupboard and brought down the jar of orange jam. It is the kind with thin slices of peel, sweet and a little bitter. I took 2 slices of bread and put them in the toaster. "Let's make a plan," I said. The toaster hummed. He wiped his face with the back of his hand and watched me. "A standing date," I added. "The last Saturday of every month. Breakfast here. Eggs, toast, orange jam." He smiled, a small, true smile. "I can do that," he said. "I want that." I set the plates down and put the jam in the middle. "Put it in your calendar," I said, "with an alarm." His smile grew a little. He reached for his phone and opened it. "The last Saturday," he said, typing. "Every month." He said a gentle chime. He added another event and looked up at me. "Your birthday," he said softly, "and Dad's day, and the kids' school concerts. I'll add them all, no excuses." We ate toast with orange jam and sat in the soft light of late afternoon. The sugar and citrus tasted like a small holiday. He put the phone face down, as if to show me that the screen would not take him away right now. I poured tea. He watched the steam. "I'm working on it with Anna," he said. "I told her I have been using her boundaries as my shield. That is not fair to her. It is not fair to you." "I will talk to her," I said. "I want to hear her heart too." He nodded. "She wants to see you," he said. "She feels terrible. She didn't understand what the drawing was. She saw it as a test. She grew up," he paused, choosing his words, "in a house where money and love were tied together in ways that hurt. She is trying to protect us. She gets rigid when she is scared." "I know that feeling," I said. I looked at the frame. "We will talk." He gave a small sigh, the kind you give when you've been holding a heavy bag by the handles for a long time and finally set it down. "Thank you," he said. We cleared the plates together, the simple, old rhythm of child and parent without the roles being heavy. He rinsed and I dried. He looked around the kitchen and then at the space on the wall near the window. "Here," he asked, holding up the frame. The light from the window fell right there in the mornings. It was a good place for the sun in the corner. "Yes," I said. "There." He found a nail in the little dish by the stove where I keep small tools. He used the back of a spoon to tap it into the wood, careful and steady. He hung the frame and stepped back. We stood side by side and looked at it. The simple house, the round hands, the bright sun. It felt like the room took a deep breath with us. After he left, the kitchen felt fuller, not louder, fuller. The drawing held its place on the wall like it had always been meant to be there. I touched the edge of the frame as I passed and felt a kind of peace fill the room. That night, as I washed my cup, I looked up, and the sun in the drawing looked back. I slept easy. The next day, I took a small plant from my windowsill and put it in a clean pot. It had little green leaves that looked like tiny hearts. I wrapped a cloth around the pot and tied it with twine. I called Anna and asked if I could stop by. Her voice was calm and careful. "Yes," she said. "Please do." Their house was quiet when I arrived. The hallway smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. Anna opened the door and stood aside. We looked at each other for a moment. She looked like she had not slept well either. I held out the plant. "For your kitchen," I said. It likes morning light. Thank you, she said. She took it and set it on the counter. We sat at the table. Her hands were folded, neat fingers on neat fingers. I let a breath move through me before I spoke. I saw your post, I said, my voice soft and steady. It hurt me. She looked down at her hands. Her shoulders rose a little, like a person stepping into cold water. I know, she said. I was defensive. I felt cornered by feelings I did not understand. I was wrong to make it public. She swallowed. I'm sorry. I nodded. Thank you, I said. I did not add more. I did not fill the space with old reasons. I let her say what she needed to say. She took a breath. I grew up with guilt wrapped around everything, she said. Money, favors, rides to the store. We said yes to get love and we said no to feel safe, and both choices hurt. When I saw the drawing, I did not see what it was. I saw a test I thought I had to pass or fail. That is my story, not yours. I made it about me and my fear. I am sorry. I understand, I said gently. I did not send it to test you. I sent it because I needed to hold up something true without shouting. She nodded. I know that now, she said. I deleted the post. I told Michael I was wrong. I cannot promise I will never be afraid and draw lines too hard. But I can promise to try to speak to you first. I can promise to try to keep our family business inside our family. That is enough, I said. Effort is a strong thing when it returns. Her eyes filled with tears. She did not let them fall. She took a breath and smiled a small, shaky smile. Will you forgive me? She asked. I do, I said. And I will again if we need to. That is what family does. We sat for a while and talked about little things after that. The children's art projects, the new teacher at school, a soup recipe that uses carrots and ginger. It felt good to let our words move back into the gentle lanes where they usually live. Before I left, she touched my arm. Thank you for the plant, she said, and for the chance to say this out loud. I squeezed her hand. We are learning, I said. 2 evenings later, there was a knock on my door that came with small, excited whispers. I opened it to find Leo and Maya on the step, both holding a big card that had glitter falling off the edges. Michael stood behind them, smiling. Happy birthday, they sang, a little off-key, a lot enthusiastic. They pushed the card into my hands. The table inside was buried in glitter by the time I set it down. I did not mind. It looked like a small party had burst right at my kitchen table. We made it, Leo said. We used all the glue, Maya added, proud. I laughed softly. I can see that. I opened the card. Inside, their names were drawn in wide strokes, and there were hearts and stars and a sun in the corner, bright and yellow. Can we see the drawing? Leo asked. Daddy said you have a very important picture. I took them to the wall by the window. There, I said. They stood side by side and looked up at it. Maya pointed. The sun, she said. It looks happy. Leo narrowed his eyes in serious 8-year-old focus. Daddy drew that, he asked. When he was 5, I said. He gave it to me. Michael stood behind them and put a hand on each small shoulder. I did, he said. His voice was quiet. I gave it to Grandma. She kept it safe. Leo reached a finger up and stopped just short of the frame. It's good, he said. The sun is very round. We all laughed a little, and the laugh felt like a soft blanket on a cold chair. We had a belated birthday right there. I cut slices of the little cake that was left. We topped them with berries. We used too many napkins for the glitter and sugar and small hands. We sang again, gently this time, and I closed my eyes for a moment and wished for steady days. I opened them to see those 2 bright faces watching me, and I felt the wish already starting to take shape. Michael washed the plates after. The children played with the basket of crayons I keep in the corner. They drew their own pictures, suns and houses, and a dog that looked like a long potato with legs. We taped their drawings on the fridge, next to the grocery list and the little calendar. The room felt busy in the best way. Before they left, Michael stood by the wall with the drawing again. He looked at it for a long second, then at me. Breakfast, he said, like a reminder we both wanted to hear out loud. Last Saturday of every month. He held up his phone. It's in here with a bell. I nodded. It is in here, I said, touching my chest. With a bell, too. The first of those Saturdays came 2 weeks later. He knocked right on time, a paper bag in his hand. He laid eggs on the counter, their shells brown and speckled. He took out a loaf of bread and the jar of orange jam. We moved easily in the kitchen, him at the stove, me at the table. He scrambled the eggs the way his father did, slow with a bit of butter, lifting the curds at the edges and letting them fall. I made coffee and tea. We set the table side by side. We ate and talked about ordinary things. Work, weather, the garden. He showed me photos of the kids at a school assembly. He had put the birthdays of the people we love into his calendar. He had added a little note for the day his father died and a plan to bring flowers to the grave. "I set 2 alarms," he said softly, like a promise whispered to a door before you open it. After we ate, we took a short walk. The air was bright and just a little cold. We passed Paula and waved. She looked at us and smiled with her whole face. "Morning," she called. "Morning," we called back. Our shadows walked beside us. They looked like a tall and a taller person holding a long, thin string between them. It made me smile. The next month, he brought the children. Maya sat on the counter and ate jam from a little spoon until we laughed and gave her a piece of toast to keep the jam from escaping. Lee helped crack the eggs and gave a proud report on the number of tiny shell pieces he did not let into the bowl. We put on music and swayed a little while we cooked. It was not loud. It was just enough to make our steps align. On a Tuesday a little after that, Anna came by alone. She brought me a small jar of her own. "Lemon curd," she said. "I am learning." We had tea and spread the curd on biscuits, and she told me about a time in her childhood when someone made a list of what she owed for kindness. "It took me years to separate care from debt," she said. "Sometimes I still mix them up." She looked at me. "You do not keep score, I see that. I am trying to see it faster." "We are all learning," I said again. I told her about the library and the church kitchen and the new plan in my will. I did not list amounts. I did not make a case. I simply told her what mattered to me and why. She listened and nodded. "That is beautiful," she said. "It sounds like you." We set a day for her to come to the library with me and shelve books. She smiled at that. "I like putting things in their place," she said, and we both laughed. The drawing stayed on the wall and watched all of this. It watched small hands reaching for jam. It watched tired shoulders relax at a table. It watched apologies and small promises turn into acts. It watched quiet become company. It did not change. We changed around it. Once, late in the afternoon, I stood and looked at the frame and thought about the letter I had written for my will. I thought about the line where I asked them to forgive me for any ways I fall short. I thought about the ways we all fall short and the ways we stand up again. The drawing, with its round sun, seemed to say, "Keep it simple." So we did. Michael and I found a new rhythm that did not try to pretend the old hurts never happened. We folded them carefully and put them on a shelf that we did not open each day. We did not need to. The work was in showing up on the last Saturday, in keeping the bell on our calendar, in not letting the word busy be a blanket we threw over the parts of our life that needed light. On a quiet Wednesday, I found him at the door with a small bag of groceries. "Soup day," he said. We chopped vegetables and did not talk about heavy things. We simply cooked and let the room be full of good smells and small sounds. He reached up and touched the frame as he passed, like a habit you do without thinking. I noticed it. I smiled. He still had hard weeks. I still had tender nights. We did not try to fix all of it. We tried to be present for the part we could hold. On the day that would have been his father's birthday, we brought flowers and stood at the grave. He slid his hand into mine the way he did when he was little. We said nothing for a long time. The wind moved the leaves. The sun came out from behind a cloud and then went back again. It felt like hello and goodbye at the same time. On my next birthday, there was a chorus at my door before I even had the kettle on. "Don't open yet," Leo shouted from the hall. "We have to get ready." I laughed and waited. When I opened the door, they stood there with paper hats and a lopsided cake they had made themselves. The frosting leaned, the candles were too many, the joy was perfect. Michael held up his hands. "We did it," he said. "We remembered." I smiled and pulled them all into the kitchen. The drawing on the wall looked on like a bright witness. Later, after the crumbs had been wiped and the glitter had migrated to every part of the kitchen again, I sat alone for a few minutes. I looked at the frame. The simple wood matched the shelf now like they had been made together. The sun still shone. The little figures still stood. All the things we had felt and said and done had moved around it, but the picture was the same. That comforted me. Some truths do not require updates. I thought of the day I walked to the post office with the envelope pressed to my chest. I thought of Mr. Patel asking if it was something special. I thought of Anna's post and my choice to close the app and make tea. I thought of Ms. Chen's quiet office and the steady lines of the new plan. I thought of the words I wrote in my letter. I saw each step like a stone across a river. None of them were loud. Each of them carried me to where I stood now. When I cleaned up that evening, I found a glitter star under the table and a slice of paper hat caught between the chair and the wall. I left the star in the windowsill. The paper hat went in the bin. I made tea and sat for a while, just letting the day sit with me. Then I turned out the light and went to bed. It is a gentle thing to find your way back to someone without making a speech about it. It is a tender thing to add a bell to your calendar and to show up when it rings. It is a true thing to say, "You didn't cause my heart," and mean it. It is a strong thing to hang a drawing on a wall and let it watch you be better. The kitchen is my favorite room now. In the mornings, the light finds the drawing first, and then it moves across the table to my cup. I say hello to my husband's photo and tell him what is planned. "Breakfast day is coming," I say. "Orange jam," I add, and I can almost hear him laugh. I look at the frame and feel the steady good weight of time. Sometimes, when the house is quiet after everyone has gone, I stand at the wall and look close. I can see the places where a small hand pressed the crayon harder to make the sun shine. I can see tiny marks where tape once held the paper to a fridge. I can see the tremble of a line that could not decide if it wanted to be a roof or a cloud. I feel my own older hand rise instinctively to steady it. Then I let it be. It is beautiful as it is. The last Saturday of the month will come again soon. I have eggs and bread ready. The orange jam waits in the cupboard. The bell on my phone will ring, but I will be watching the door already. A family is not a test to pass. It is a table you set again and again. It is a son drawn by a child and a mother who keeps it safe. It is a will written with love and a letter that says, "I did my best." It is a quiet knock on a door and the word sorry followed by the word breakfast. It is a frame on a wall that holds a small house where we try, every day, to live well. When I look back now, I see that there was no shouting. There were no slammed doors. There was hurt. There were long, quiet hours. And then there were small, steady steps back toward each other. The steps were not grand. One was an envelope with a drawing inside. One was a walk to a calm office where I signed my name with a steady hand. One was a knock on a door and the word sorry. One was a breakfast with eggs and orange jam. Little steps repeated, like stitches holding a soft seam. I kept the new will. I did not change the plan I made with Ms. Chen. It still holds the children and the places that kept me standing when I was alone. But I added another letter, written at my kitchen table one quiet morning. I tucked it behind the first note so they would find them together, like two hands holding one message. In that second letter, I said this: "If love grows and stays steady over the years, I may change this again. My door and my heart stay open." I read those lines out loud to the empty room. They sounded like me. They sounded like the way I want to live. Forgiveness came like warm light, not like a switch. It did not erase what happened. It gave the bruise room to heal. Standing steady did not make me hard. It helped me keep my balance while I reached out my hand. I am not a hero in this story. I am a mother who felt small in her own picture and then decided to take one soft action at a time. I mailed a truth. I made tea. I answered a knock. I listened. I spoke simply. And I let time do some of the gentle work that people cannot force. There is a lesson here, and it is not complicated. Love is not a test. It is not a puzzle with right and wrong answers. Love is presence. It is showing up when the bell rings on a calendar. It is a call on a quiet afternoon. It is a cup of tea at a table together. Love can be a framed drawing on a kitchen wall that says, "I remember." It can be a plant on a counter, a note tucked behind another note, a loaf of bread shared over a sink full of warm water. It is not loud. It does not need an audience. It grows in the small space between two people who choose to keep coming back. If you are listening and you feel forgotten, I want to tell you this: you are not invisible. Your love counts, even when it is quiet. You can take one gentle step. You can send one honest message. You can make soup and keep a chair ready. You can protect what matters to you with clear choices and soft words. If you are listening and you carry guilt, I want to tell you this too. You can take one gentle step back. You can say, "I'm sorry." You can add a bell to your phone. You can show up with breakfast. You can take down a harsh post and try again with care. None of us are perfect. All of us can learn. I sit here now with the evening light moving across the wall. The drawing catches it first, then the light comes to my cup. My husband's photo smiles the same way he always did. The house feels held. The will rests in the drawer that sticks a little. The letters lie together like two quiet promises. Thank you for sitting with me through this. Thank you for letting me tell it slowly. Your listening has been a kind room to step into. If you can, call someone you love today, or send a small picture, or put water on to boil and wait for the knock. Wherever you are, I hope there is a soft light near you. I hope there is a chair that fits your body well. I hope there is someone you can forgive, and I hope there is someone who will forgive you. I hope the next bell on your calendar is not just a sound, but a door you open. I will keep showing up in my own kitchen. The kettle will sing. The last Saturday will come again. There will be eggs and toast and orange jam and a sun drawn by a child watching over us as we eat. My door and my heart stay open. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with each other. I am grateful you were here with me. Until next time, take care, and may your next small step lead you toward someone you love.